Undertale has been a mass-scale mind virus for literally a decade now. There's honestly something to be said about how captivating the narrative Toby Fox built here in order to achieve this is, with his world and characters still arguably being at the peak of their popularity 10 years later. There's really only one other indie franchise to share this same luxury, but Toby Fox hasn't decided to flood Walmart with stuff that looks like this yet. Although the thing I believe it shares most in common with is its commitment to edging its fan base with an extremely convoluted mystery. Undertale has been the anchor point of an unraveling mystery more than a decade in the making. It's crazy to think I'm almost old enough to drink, but we still have no idea what this wing-ding fucker's role is, and that's been something that I've been wondering since I was like 9. And on top of that, we don't even know if this thing is Gaster at this point, but fuck you, I'm not calling this Gaster. I bring all this up because Undertale, despite being a very expansive game with a lot of content that many players will probably never see or experience, is practically completely understood in the modern day. We've had plenty of time to theorize, data mine, fucking scavenge through Toby Fox's old planning notes searching for Grandpa Semi. We've done it all. There is a conversation to be had about the meaning of a lot of these out of the ordinary and sometimes creepy secrets in the world of Undertale, what its sister game Deltarune has to do with it, and how the proposed meanings of these things change as the narrative unravels itself over time. But unless Toby were to literally go back and add things to the game under our noses, we've seen it all. Fuck off! But before all of that, a few months ago, when I got this video in my recommended called Call, I was really intrigued. An Undertale player walking around an empty Snowden, receiving a strange, redacted call, stumbling upon bizarre occurrences, until wandering upon a long path that was never there. Until... This is Unaltered User, a channel documenting a strange Undertale playthrough featuring anomalies never before seen, cuts and rearranged content, and a new, very personal narrative to unravel. So, what exactly happened in Call? Call is meant to serve as our introduction to this playthrough of Undertale. Already having entered Snowden, the player gets met with the namesake of the video, The Call. Absolute cinema already. As mentioned before, the call just simply states redacted. Interestingly, the surrounding area also seems to be very abnormally vacant. The atmosphere is akin to when you drive everyone out of town during the genocide route. Doggo is not present at his post, the music having been bizarrely pitched down, etc. Though, as the player continues walking, a monochromatic human sprite is in frame for a slight moment. My first instinct was to think that this could maybe represent a goner, the rare Gaster-related figures that show up depending on your fun value in the base game, but they're typically gray and not this Venta black color that this one is. That characteristic is more suited for the man himself. Weird Venta black anomalies continue into the second room as well, with a blacked out sign that reads completely garbled text. We'll come back to this in a moment. North of where this sign is located is the optional area where the snowman typically sits. But the small nook has now been replaced with a massive corridor, going on for an extremely abnormal amount of time, enough for the trees to even start disappearing. Until... Even the colors of the glitch is a subtle nod that Frisk is non-binary. Even with the simplicity and shortness of this installment, we already have quite a bit to work with here. Outside of the more obvious anomalies, the setup gives us context on what we should look for moving forward. The black sign in the middle of the video shows garbled nonsense, so we can assume that this is a cipher of some kind because every ARG needs to include a cipher. This one is an absolute freebie though, as it's just an extremely basic Kaisar cipher with only one letter of each word being shifted. This makes it very easy to figure out the text. And if it wasn't cryptic enough, we got another cipher in the description. This one is a little more advanced, coming in the form of a visionaire cipher. This type of cipher is interesting as it requires a key to even be cracked, essentially serving as a password. But considering there's only one actual word that shows up in this installment, we can narrow it down to the key being redacted. Once the code is cracked, it reveals the text to us. It reading, the final thing I feel might be valuable to bring attention to regarding this video is what I assume to be the documentation date of when this was recorded. This video stating its original date to be October 9th, 2015, just a little under a month from Undertale's initial release. As of right now, there is only so much context given as to what is going on here. From what we can piece together, this user is having an encounter with some sort of anomaly, go fucking figure. The only motive we can gauge from this presence so far is that something is not the one and that they need another, but it isn't clear as to what that is just yet. Is it their vessel? The player themselves? It's not really stated. So, I guess that means we'll just have to press on to the second installment, titled Empty Town. The video starts in an interesting placement. Our player seems to have gone through much of Snowdin by now, enough to end up at the titular town itself. Notably, the music here becomes a bit off-key once entering the town, and as implied by the video title, nobody is around. Well, at least before going to the right of the inn.
Why are you...
So, Red Demon is green now, and it's like the only person around. That's cool. Before we acknowledge this, however, we need to talk about the moment that happens briefly before the player goes to interact with it. They open their inventory for the first time on screen. Everything is fairly innocuous here, outside of the player name they chose for themselves. Papyru. This is actually one of the few secret names that you can select for yourself at the beginning that allows you to encounter a unique splash text, stating, "I'll allow it." Undertale has a 6-character limit when it comes to selecting your name, so that's why it's missing a character. This actually does become important later on, but the only information this gives us currently is that whoever is playing the game right now was aware of Papyrus before playing. So much so that he tried to name himself after the character. Guess he has a favorite. I don't blame him. I love this guy. Talking to the green demon gives us the character text, "How many will it take?" Still incredibly cryptic, but it fits together with the other lines we had decoded from the previous episode. After this somewhat threatening remark, our good friend Papyru attempts to browse the humble Snowdin shop, but instead he is met with, The text "grievous error" is text that can be found in Undertale, happening near Waterfall when you encounter Sans again. But here, the spooky-ass entities seem to have misspelled the text, which is kind of a grievous error in its own right. After exiting the shop, the eerie music that occurred stays there for our remainder of time in Snowdin. Heading further, we see that the screen effect that triggers before the Papyrus fight starts to encumber the screen. But, alas, no skeleton actually shows up. Poor guy. Walking into Waterfall, we get closer to where the actual grievous error message would originally show up in-game. But instead of Sans waiting for us there, the sprite taking the place of Sans in this area shares the same theme as the sprite that attacked us at the end of the very first episode. Again, not taking the form of a goner, but as something that I can only describe as gasterized, but that makes it sound like he's a part of some shitty Funko Pop line. Or the fucking Todd McFarlane Joker eyes. He's not the only notable part of this encounter, however. The screen glitches out and goes crazy again, but if we pause on the correct frames, we can see the entity is actively deleting maps from the game. But that's not the most important part on this screen. Looking up from this text reveals the actual hardware name of the player we're spectating, Michael. It's always the fucking Michaels, man. They can never catch a break. The video ends with a fatal error screen that would trigger in the event you delete or corrupt map files. Pretty on theme for what we had just witnessed. There is a lot to follow up on here from the previous installment. Much of the text seems to continue a shared motif, with the Green Demon's text of "how many will it take" sounding like a direct follow-up to "I need another." Whatever this entity is, it's starting to become very clear now that their goal is to collect vessels in order to take a physical form, and they seem to be doing so through Undertale. Guess they finally wanted to take a break from Sonic. As to why is definitely still up for questioning, but this video does hide some secrets that could get us closer. Maybe. First off, more Visionaire ciphers. I couldn't for the life of me crack the code to this one, so I got some help from the comments. The scene where the files start to get deleted hides a secret Visionaire cipher. Using the key Snowden gives us this message. This is paired with another cipher in the description using the key error. We get one more hidden code. Okay, this is actually just some Sonic EXE shit, bro. The themes here continue to allude to an entity trying to find a perfect vessel, trying on many masks, but none of them seeming to fit what it exactly needs. The human in the first video, Green Demon, Gaster Sands, nothing seeming to satisfy it. Whatever it is. So far, this isn't like anything we haven't seen in a project like this before, but the spin it's providing still makes for a somewhat interesting narrative to continue uncovering, if we so choose to. Maybe the third video on the channel, Dissonance, will start to give us some answers. Dissonance takes an interesting turn from what we may have been expecting. We're not picking back up from Waterfall or even Snowden this time. We're just straight up back to right at the beginning of the game. The player, who we can just refer to as Michael now, makes his way out of the starting area where Flowey fucking dies. But don't worry, Toriel is here to explain everything. From here on out, Michael starts to explore the beginning area of the ruins without the aid of Toriel. The rooms get the funny Gaster quote as he travels his way through. Once consumed by the void entirely, we start to hear this absolute banger of a track, like holy shit. In all seriousness, Michael starts to run through a graveyard of Floweys whilst also being chased by this amalgamation of static. Just when he's about to reach something that may be an exit, the game crashes. If you're an eagle-eyed viewer, you probably noticed that the ending frame of this video hides another code of some sort, but it's not directly linked to any cipher I personally recognize. So, I had to do a bit more digging, and by that I mean I scrolled in the description. Unlike the other descriptions we've had so far, Michael actually leaves a small message for us this time around. I've been having weird dreams lately. A lot of them involved flowers. Weird. Right under this is also a broken link too. My first instinct was to say that this was a YouTube link, but pasting the link extension into Google didn't lend to any results other than monitors and a fucking sink. Until I realized, wait, I'm stupid, this is for Pastebin. Entering the link with the proper site extension gives us this. It's Michael's Pastebin. At first, it looks like a barrage of random symbols with no apparent meaning. But if you are more observant, many of the same symbols can be found at the end of the video this link originates from. And if you count the symbols from how many are included in this paste, you'll notice there's 26. The same number of letters in the alphabet. This is Michael's own personal cipher, so if you abide by the rules of this cipher, this is what the symbols translate to. Yeah, this isn't anything. At first, I thought this was another Caesar cipher, but that turned out to be futile. The extra added security actually comes from an @bash cipher. I feel like I'm saying cipher far too much in this video. I'm gonna summon, like, the vengeful spirit of Alex Hirsch. Anyways, putting the text through this cipher leaves us with this message. This is the final secret that can be found in Dissonance, and it certainly leaves many more questions to be answered. It's unknown why we're at the start of the game once again, my theory being that after the corruption of the previous episode, Michael's saves become unsalvageable, so he needed to restart. But this reset did not save him from the anomalies he has been experiencing, and if anything, this just seemed to amplify it. This entity is now deleting entire characters from the game before they even have a chance to show up, which seems to be on theme with everything else it has been doing. And seemingly, it chases down Michael at the end, lacking a vessel this time around. But the thing that interests me the most about this installment is the description dialogue. Michael's comment on the weird dreams he's having is directly responded to by the entity at the end of this video. It's just a bad dream, and he's never waking up. But realistically, this text would have appeared before Michael could have even told anyone about the dreams. This thing hiding in the Undertale files may have a much wider influence than simply being a spooky computer hijacking. The saga continues into a video that just simply has a default title stating the date, which is unlike previous installments. Michael seems to have made his way back to Waterfall, so I guess the entity just fucked off long enough for him to be able to recuperate his progress. What did it mean by this? Michael continues his escapades, gets stalked by the Roaring Knights, and encounters Frogget. Hey, buddy! Bro, it's the Mike FNAF sprite. Michael tries to attack at first because what the fuck, but it doesn't seem to do anything. Acting seems to only make the entity fall asleep on the Q key, though this is followed up with a lot of spam. Some of this will be the entirety of the alphabet, likely a hint at figuring out last episode's cipher, a bunch of P's, the text that was hidden in strings Toby left for data miners, or just miscellaneous text from the game itself. Although, in all of these strings, there is one thing of importance. Put this in our pocket for now. We'll come back to it. Michael is abruptly taken out of the encounter and continues through the passage of Waterfall. Typically, Undyne would throw her spears at you during this section, but nothing of the sort seems to be happening. Michael takes what is likely the best precaution in this scenario and just completely shuts down his PC. I intentionally left one of the pieces of dialogue out of the entity's message, as it pertains to something else we'll need to discuss. But before we do that, about that link from earlier. Putting this into the search bar expectedly gives us an unlisted video on the channel. The video is a really artifact text exchange between someone represented with a papyrus sprite and someone represented with a flowy sprite named Dean. And considering Michael named himself Papyru in this playthrough, we can connect the dots pretty easily there. The phone call lasts for about a minute, and the general premise of it is Michael calling his friend Dean to explain the weird things going on in his game. Hey Dean, it's me.
Well, what's up?
Have you seen the messages I've sent yet?
Nah, I've been busy, so I haven't got any time to watch them.
Something's going on with my game, dude. I have no idea what it is. I've been searching all over the internet for it, and I still have no idea what that
Slow
thing
down,
is.
I can barely understand you.
I'm probably gonna quit the game for a while. It said my name to me today.
Pretty sure most RPGs use the name that you enter.
Not this one, and I don't mean the name I entered. The thing in the game said my full legal name.
Should that be against Steam's terms of service or something?
I don't know, but I'm serious, dude.
Damn, well, if I were you, I'd stop playing as well.
Yeah, well, thanks for listening. Kind of tired after everything, so I'm just going to go to bed.
Well, I have to head out soon anyways. Good luck with whatever's happening.
He mentions he's been sending these videos to Dean, meaning there's a chance that they were recorded in the first place for him. Michael mentions that the game said his name today, so this takes place right after he turned off his PC. He vents to Dean for a little longer, mentioning he's going to head to bed before they both hang up and the video ends. But while the call is going on, we could see some symbols fade into frame at the top of the video. But before getting to that, we also need to deal with the description of this upload first. I initially thought that this was another cipher of some sort, before realizing this is another link extension. Once again, to Pastebin. Using the original alphabet Pastebin link provided by Michael allows us to translate the text. And using the alphabet on the second secret text in the video itself gives us... The second one on here is self-explanatory. It's just the entity taunting Michael by responding to him. The first message from Pastebin, however, is a lot more vague and interesting. My only guess is that this is meant to be in the context of Dean, who says he'll talk to Michael later. The entity forcing Dean to return, as it phrases it, could be under a myriad of contexts, so we'll just have to wait and see how sinister this message actually turns out being. Back to the waterfall video real quick. I mentioned earlier that I left out one of the entity's messages near the end. The message being the entity reading out Michael's online alias, MHPlays1996. If we assume the 96 to be Michael's birth year, that would mean he is 19 during the time of this video taking place. Don't know if that's important at all, but I don't know, I thought it was interesting. I left this out while we talked about the other things because MHPlays is a channel you can actually find on YouTube, only having 2 uploads as of right now. One being a really short update video, and the other being 2 hours of playing Super Mario Bros. On the smallest window known to man. If there's anything creepy in this video, I'm sorry. I'm not subjugating 2 hours of my life to find that. I like ARGs, but not that much. The far more manageable 27-second long video is a simple update video from Michael explaining that he is going to be taking a break from Undertale due to the weird things happening in-game. He mentions he recorded the last encounter but didn't want to post it as it gives his full legal name. A bit too late there, buddy. I'm not sure about that one. The lack of any creepy shit or ciphers or anything like that go to tell me that this probably means Michael is not the one running Unaltered User, and this channel is the one where Michael fully has control. Maybe in universe, these videos were originally on Michael's channel, that or the entity wanted to do a little trolling and upload his torment some 10 years later, I don't fucking know. Going back to Unaltered User, the next episode relies heavily on the secondary alphabet, as shown by the title, which simply translates to hello. We see a Word document being flooded by a bunch of spam that means absolutely nothing. An interesting detail to note here is that the document is titled Major Moments That Has Shaped My Life Essay Thing. So here's my interpretation of what was happening. Michael was likely writing an essay for school, likely for college if he was born in 96, and the entity said fuck your education and took matters into his own hands. Environmental storytelling at its finest, I tell ya. Undertale opens in another window while this happens. The Frisk vessel from the first episode shows itself, causing Michael's computer to malfunction even more, as it begins to speak again. The entity monologues how this isn't the first instance of doing something like this to someone, and that Michael will see it to the end. A lot of this being betrayed through some pretty damn gnarly sprite edits. I really like the Asgore one in particular, it's really unnerving. Michael attempts to shut down his PC once more, but that same trick doesn't work twice. The entity even taunting Michael for thinking it would. But if that doesn't work, Michael got the bright idea to use Task Manager. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Control-Shift-Escape. Unfortunately for Michael, the diversion only lasted for so long. Before the video ends, another code at the bottom reveals itself to us. When deciphered, it reads, I don't know, man. It seemed pretty smart to me. I mean, like, Michael probably should just, like, unplug his PC, maybe. I don't know. Why hasn't he tried that yet, actually? This is undoubtedly the best episode in the series so far. I always had a soft spot for media that finds fun ways to play with computer windows to forward a message. I loved it in something like Chainmail Chasers, and I love it here, too. This installment is also just as expository as the previous episode, too. This is probably the most clear-cut the entity's motivation has been made to us so far, although it's still not entirely helpful. We know that whatever relationship it has with Michael may not be as personal as we may have been led on to believe, if we believe what the entity is saying about Michael being not special. So it's possible it may just need other victims in order to form a new vessel. My guess, eventually to invade the corporeal realm. Like any good video game-related ARGs, we got some soundtrack uploads. Michael takes a break from direct documentation to upload rips of the original music from his copy of Undertale. These uploads seem to be safer compared to the others, Michael directly communicating with us through the description. Michael here. This song plays in the flower field you can find in the ruins. I couldn't find any uploads of the song, so I just decided to do it myself. For all intents and purposes, the rip is honestly pretty normal. Despite not actually being a track from Undertale, the melody sounds melancholic, but I don't believe it's been used in any of the uploads we've gone through so far. Though the first 10 seconds of the track are pretty peculiar. Hear that? That's absolutely the sound of a code. First instinct was to run this through a spectrogram, and what do you know? Field of flowers, and whenever I get close to them, they begin to melt. There's a figure watching me in the distance. It doesn't do anything, but it moves away when I try to get close to it. Every time I wake up, I have a worse headache. It's been worse since I quit that game. This is really consistent with the things we have been piecing together so far. This looks like it's part of a longer message we don't have full access to, but it's consistent with what Michael said in the description of Dissonance, as well as just the general premise of that episode. The motif of Flowey, or just flowers in general, has been growing stronger with every passing episode. Flowey melts in Dissonance, with several duplicates of his corpse scattered around. A corrupted Flowey battle sprite is shown in Hello, and most notably to me, the character Dean is represented through Flowey, just as Michael is represented through Papyrus. I think the narrative is trying to tell us Dean is involved more here than what's maybe been let on. Though, in his only appearance, he seemed oblivious to the things that were happening to Michael. However, that's only speculatory as of now. The message here doesn't tell us anything more than what we already know. Keep an eye out for flowers. The next episode is the same as the last, an OST rip. Let's take a listen, shall we? Is this the Jersey Club remix I keep hearing people talk about? This isn't much of a song like the other upload. I mean, the title even says it's meant to just be ambience, but it's more than that. It's a conversation. Hey, how come whenever I ask to hang out with you, you keep making excuses?
I do not have time.
What would be making you so busy? You don't have work or anything. Are you going to answer me, or are you just going to stay silent? Dean, are you still there?
Yes.
It really seems with every installment, this Dean character becomes more important and integral to the story at large. The sound fonts here are pitched-down versions of Papyrus's and Flowey's. I don't think I need to explain why by now. Dean was acting odd in this recording. Michael calls out his recent odd behavior, Dean not making time to hang out despite seeming having very minimal reason not to, and his responses are really dry in tone. And of course, the ending. I think it's certain by now that Dean is a lot more involved with this entity than we were led on to believe. This call could lead down a myriad of avenues, anything from Dean being the thing haunting Michael to maybe being imprisoned or something different entirely. We're getting drip-fed answers, but we have not landed on anything definitive. As of right now, there's only 2 more entries in this narrative. And judging by the looks of things, we may be getting our answer very soon. The second to last video, titled Friends, has us back at the start of the game once again. The Flowerfield OST is playing in the background this time. Flowey stands in our path, but isn't disintegrating this time around. Michael tries to interact with him, but his sprite doesn't seem to be functional. Proceeding forward is the room again. And then again, and then again. This cycle repeats another 2 times, the music pitching down for each one. There's honestly a lot to be left up to interpretation here, so let's watch the final video first. It's a direct follow-up to this. Michael enters into a battle with the Weathered Flower, only having the ability to fight. When Michael goes to attack it, we see that its name is simply D, the amount of damage alone syncing with the name of the video. Michael goes in for another attack. Michael has defeated D. The encounter is followed up with a new room, a room made up entirely of white petals. I felt so sick for the past week, but that sound made it unbearable. I feel nauseous. For some reason, I couldn't move. I was frozen still. It should be pointed out that the numbers of damage aren't random. They correspond to the letters in the alphabet. When translated, it creates... Michael has killed Dean. Unaltered User follows a formula that isn't anything you wouldn't be unfamiliar with, but it presents itself in a way that's really fun and interesting for an amateur horror project. Although I do believe this entity may make itself known a little too often, and honestly some of the dialogue can border on Sonic EXE I will eat your hat type shit, its flaws get ironed out pretty quickly, and the focus on the two friends makes for a much more engaging perspective. And thankfully, that's what seems to be the focus anyways. Undertale has always been a game I believe could make for a really good unfiction project, and I'm honestly surprised something like this hasn't seemed to have been attempted yet. It's a story that is certainly taking its time to unravel, but something tells me that Michael's torment isn't over just yet. While making this, I've honestly fallen down a rabbit hole of Undertale horror projects, some more well known, others forgotten by the sands of time. If this does well, then who knows? This might not be the last time you see this symbol on the channel. Anyways, I'm still waiting for Grandpa Semi to show up in Deltarune Chapter 5.